Welcome to the National Women's Fitness Academy podcast. We're here to talk about women's health, female hormones, body image, and all things health and fitness.
Welcome back, guys, to the Women's Fitness Academy podcast. I am your host, Ellen. I am my educator for Women's Fitness Academy, and I am also a binge and body image coach. And today I'm here with someone who I know quite well, or I feel like as well as you can know someone through WhatsApp and Zoom calls. It's my own personal business coach, Inez. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. And yeah, we know each other so well. We literally talk almost every single day, which is obviously amazing. It's such an honor and a privilege to get to know you and to get to work with you. And I'm really excited to be having this conversation with you today.
Yeah. Well, I feel like this will be a really good conversation for our listeners, because obviously a lot of the girls who listen to this podcast are business owners themselves, or they are someone who wants to eventually start a business. And obviously I've been running my business for about 4 years now, and I worked with so many business coaches in the past, and I always felt like this wasn't right for me, and I felt like it was very like mainstream, like it was like a blueprint, and they just wanted you to do exactly the same as every single person. And yeah, I just felt like nothing really connected with me. It was like, you need to just focus on like the branding, you need to focus on like messaging people in the DMs constantly, and like you can never like stop working. And yeah, I just never really felt like anything was right. And then I think I found you from the Bondi Beach Babes page, right?
Yeah. You posted something about a business coach, and you mentioned that you were like wanting to develop new programs. And I wouldn't normally do that. Like I wouldn't normally I don't even really use that Facebook group, but the way that you phrased the question, I was like, oh, I feel like I know exactly what this person wants. And that's why I was like, oh, I'll just message her and like see. Yeah. And then, yeah.
Yeah. And then we did a call, and then I was like sitting on it for like 3 months, I think. And I was like, oh, I don't know. But I still followed you. And like anyone, like I will obviously link to your Instagram in the show notes. But anyone who goes to your Instagram, I feel like you just get so drawn into it, like your energy that you put out there, like with your post, like everything's so inspiring. Like just seeing you posting on my business makes me think like, oh, maybe I should be a business coach. But obviously, like I'm super passionate about binge eating, so I think that's gonna be my jam.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
But yeah, for anyone who doesn't know you, like, how did you start? Like, what's your background? Who are you basically?
Yeah, love it. So yeah, obviously now I'm doing business and life coaching, which has been amazing, but I definitely didn't start here. And I have been running my own online business for about 5-ish years. And before that, I was actually working as a personal trainer for 6 years. So I've kind of been in the whole like running my own business for a while. I feel like that's very much my personality. I've always been someone that's wanted to like do things in my own way, which I feel like is why we get along so well, Ellen, because that's also like kind of your vibe as well. So basically what happened is I was actually studying at uni as an exercise physiologist and working as a personal trainer. And I finished my degree and I started working as an exercise physiologist, which is basically like, you're like a clinical personal trainer. So you're working with clients that have any sort of chronic health condition. So it could be mental health, it could be a heart condition, it could be like, recovering from an injury, something like that. But I just found that, coming back to this idea of wanting to do things your own way, it was very prescribed that we had to exist within very like specific structures. Like you couldn't really like talk about your own experience or, give clients like other ways of doing things. And of course it's important when they've got certain health conditions to like be following, research backed practices. But what we find with a lot of the research is that it can be like so slow to catch up to what's actually working right now in this moment. And I just found that working in a full-time job just also wasn't really for me. So I decided to leave that and start my own online business. And at that time, because I had a background in personal training and obviously a degree in like, health science, I started my business working as a online personal trainer. And I remember I was posting on my social media for like 3 months before I ever sold anything. Like I just gave heaps of value, just building up an audience and that kind of stuff, which I often want to mention when people are thinking about starting an online business, because I think a lot of people have this idea of like, oh, I'll just post on social media, I'll just post on stories and I'll just get clients and like, you know, it'll be all well and good, which it works for some people. But, you know, for me, like I really made a point of like just giving a lot of value, really building up an audience and like establishing myself as like, I'm not just a random person posting on Instagram, like this is a business. And, you know, so I started doing like online fitness and nutrition coaching, and I was charging like $35 a week. And I just was so happy that anyone was even paying me like $1. Like I just remember at that time signing on like 10 clients, you know, making like $300 a week. And I was like, oh my God, like I've made it. Like I just felt so happy to be, you know, running an online business. It was literally just my dream. And then from that place, it obviously grew, which was amazing. And then I started working with a lot of clients around their like nutrition habits. And I moved into doing more kind of similar to what you're doing now, Ellen, around like intuitive eating, binge eating recovery, because that was part of my own story as well in terms of like body image and disordered eating. So that was like really incredible. And then what happened from that really naturally, as you'll hear, I'm a woman of many pivots and of lots of change of directions. But from that place, working with a lot of people around like their eating and intuitive eating, letting go of binge eating, as I'm sure, like, you know, you obviously know this, Ellen, it goes so much deeper than just like, what should I meal prep and what's the best food to eat and stuff like that. So when the kind of, I guess, pandemic hit, a lot of my clients really turned into mindset coaching clients, and really, really organically, my business became this like fully fledged life coaching business where I really wasn't speaking about eating food or body image or anything like that anymore. A lot of my clients really wanted just like mindset support. And this kind of happened, as you'll hear, like when I'm talking about the different stages of my business, it always happened really organically. Like I didn't just wake up and be like, okay, I'm going to be a life coach now. Like I really obviously had a passion to do it myself, but also kind of allowed the universe, I guess, to bring me some signs of like, this might be a good new direction for you to be kind of following. So then from that place, you know, this was like the 3rd year into my business. I started doing a lot more like life coaching, which was also amazing. I loved working with people at that like deeper level, like not just focusing on food, but also like, you know, how to get rid of anxiety, how to have better relationships, how to, you know, be more confident, all that kind of stuff. And then again, about a year-ish ago, I would say, maybe a bit longer, actually. I don't know. Times are weird these days, especially with the pandemic. Someone asked me, would you do business coaching? And I worked with her doing business coaching, and she had incredible results. And I was like, oh, I actually really like this. Like, I think I'm actually really good at this. And so for the past probably like 1.5 to 2 years, I've been doing solely business coaching, which has been amazing. And obviously even within that, like, you know, Ellen would know this as well, like we do so much life coaching. Again, it's not just about posting on social media and building a brand and selling offers. It's about how you feel and the energy behind your business and who you want to be and how you're showing up and all that kind of stuff. So I really, really love that it blends the both of those things. And, you know, for me, I feel like what helps as a business coach now is that I have really had that experience of what it's like to build up a nutrition coaching business. I know what it's like to build up a life coaching business. So I can really coach from a place of like empathy, rather than, I feel like, not to kind of like go on the foot of just like straight up being like, other coaches are shit. But what I found, literally, what I found was really hard with a lot of coaches that I worked with when I was a coach was that they were really coming at it from this like business coaching perspective. And they'd like never really, like, you know, they'd come from like a marketing background or something in corporate and then made their own online business. And I was like, there is just a certain different edge of knowing what it's like to grow an online business that isn't focused on business coaching. It's just different. So I feel like that's kind of my story. I love all the different pivots that I've been through. feel like I've lived like 10,000 different lives with all of the different, you know, avenues that I've gone down. But basically that's kind of like what I do now. And my big thing as a business coach as well is I am definitely someone that can work really, really hard, and I can work really long hours. Like when I was working as a personal trainer, I used to wake up at 5 a.m., have my first client session at 5:30, and then I'd work all the way until 9 p.m. Like I was doing these huge days, studying in between, like training myself. And that really, really burnt me out. And then when I moved into online coaching, I was like, oh my God, I've got all this time freedom, but I didn't really know how to use it very well. So I just ended up working all the time, really massively like overcommitting. And again, all that really led me to was feeling really burnt out and really anxious because I was constantly working, constantly feeling guilty about, you know, my clients, you know, were they getting a good enough service, blah, blah, blah. Constantly worried that I was about to fail and that I was going to lose all my money, you know, even though I wasn't even getting close to it. I just had this constant fear. So a huge piece in the way that I coach my business coaching clients is, yes, talking about all of the marketing strategies and, you know, content approaches and how to sell and all that kind of stuff, but also like how to enjoy your life so that you can actually reap the benefits of running an online business. So that's kind of my story and where I'm landing at the moment.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. I think the best advice that you've ever given, like last week, you sent me a message saying, your job is literally to lay by the pool and just do nothing. And I was like,
yep.
Fuck yeah. I loved that. And I was like, okay, I'm going to close my laptop now and just go to the pool and just lay there and do nothing. And honestly, ever since I started really incorporating all your advice, like you're going to laugh so much when you hear the voice note I sent you yesterday. I'm not going to talk about it in the podcast because it's a bit private.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show, like, when I was working non-stop, when I was just doing like hustling, like there was no tomorrow, like I would literally get up at 7 and I would just work all day. Like even during that, like when I was training, I would go and check my phone and see like, has anyone messaged me? And I would stress about it, and then I would train and I would still be stressing and I wouldn't do anything properly because I was never really allowing myself to rest. And it comes across on your social media, like you said. But I think it's something that a lot of people go through, that they work with a business coach. Like I like how you mentioned that it is different to work with a business coach who hasn't really been in this kind of area before. Because if you're selling, I don't know, like clocks online or something like that, or like phone cases or whatever, like, yeah, if you hustle more and if you put more posts out and you market it more, yeah, you probably are going to sell a lot of phone cases. But it's a whole other level when you're trying to sell something that is so personal, like a mindset course or a nutrition course or a training program. Like people want to buy, like there's a gazillion different coaches out there, and but people only choose you because of you. They don't really choose you because of your experience and because of your results. Like, and I think that's something that a lot of people forget. So that's what I think is like so different with your coaching compared to so many other people's. And obviously that is why you, like, you know, you are so successful and so good at what you do. And it's not just about the mindset. Like I've never been coached by a business coach before, and where they talk about like resting, where they talk about like how you're actually feeling and how you're showing up, and all these other, you know, things that are so important. So yeah, you should be very, very proud of yourself for that.
Oh, I received that with literally so much love. Like my heart could actually burst. Thank you so much. That means the world to me. And yeah, like, you know, like it's so true, because that whole message that I sent you about, you know, your job is to lie by the pool. And what that essentially means is like, it's not this culture where I think it's a bit shown on social media where people are like, oh, I just laid by the pool and made $10 million in 2 seconds. Like it's also not that. And I think sometimes people exaggerate kind of the results or the way they're actually making money. And I think that's it's a really good marketing tactic, but it's not very transparent. You know what I mean? But when we do say things like that, of like, you know, your job is to really take care of your vibe. The reason for that is because if you create an Instagram post from this energy of like, oh my God, I'm going to fail, and do people like me? And oh, is this going to get me a new client? You're infusing that like desperate energy. And you always say, Ellen, like, yep, I just got to not be the needy girlfriend. And it's exactly right. Like if you go on a date with someone, and dating has so many parallels to business. If you go on a date with someone and they're like really insecure, they don't have any of their own opinions, so they just agree with everything, and they're like really intense, you know, they start talking about like the next date immediately. They're like asking you like, do you like what I'm wearing? Like, do you think I look good? You're not going to find that person very attractive, really, because it's like this person is so, or they're like, when can we go on the next date? You know, they're like really, really needy.
Yeah.
You're just not going to find that person. Yeah, literally. Yeah. You're just not going to find that person very attractive. But yet here we are thinking that that's what we need to do for our business to bring more clients into our world. We're like, oh my God, I've got to show up all the time. I've got to be really like, what's the word? Like, I can't be like too opinionated on social media because otherwise people are going to judge me. I can't post too much because otherwise people are going to get annoyed at me, or like whatever it might be. And then you just turn yourself into like, sorry to be blunt, but like you're a bit of a wet sponge. Like it's not that interesting to follow someone that doesn't, you know, kind of show their personality, or they're always kind of, even though you can obviously on Instagram, you can like present yourself as looking healthy, as having a great time, and oh my God, my life is the best. But if internally you're feeling insecure, you're feeling stressed, you're operating from this place of scarcity of like, when am I going to get my next client? You're feeling really like fearful of failure all the time. The quality of the content that you're creating, which is so important, because if you don't have high quality content, then you're not going to be able to connect to your clients or an audience that actually trusts you enough to buy from you. Because to get people to invest in your services, they need to trust you, and also, like what you were saying, they need to vibe with you, because there are a million other coaches that are doing what you are doing, which is fine, because I also believe that there are always going to be more clients. Because even though I'm a coach, I still work with I have 3 different coaches that I still work with. You know what I mean? So it's like there's never going to be a shortage of clients, but the only way your clients are going to be able to see you like amongst the sea of other coaches is by you showing off your personality. And your personality doesn't really shine through when you're feeling really insecure, or you're feeling really overworked, or you're feeling really anxious about your job. Your personality is going to really shine through when you are well rested, when you've had a beautiful afternoon by the pool, when you unfollow accounts that make you feel shitty. Like, really, people have this idea. I think a lot of I have this conversation all the time with my clients as well, that like, we have to follow certain accounts because, otherwise we won't be motivated, or we might miss out a piece of information. And it's like, you don't have to follow anyone that makes you feel anything but good. Like, you can be motivated and activated from an empowering place, rather than feeling like you're always inadequate. And so it is like, you really do have to protect your vibe, because that's when you're going to be able to, as I said, be the most creative, come up with like really kind of interesting ideas that people actually can really resonate with, that stand out on social media. It's how you're going to be able to think creatively about, what kind of offers your clients would love to have. And then also the other piece is like, your clients deserve you being well rested. So like, you're going to be a better coach for your clients if you've taken an afternoon off to go sit by the pool and read a book and relax. Because then the next morning you go into answering their questions or a coaching session with them, and you're going to be feeling good. And they're going to be like, wow, this person's so like glowing from the inside. Like, you can feel that vibe, right? And they're going to be like, of course I want to sign up with them. Like, of course I want to do something else with them. So that journey, like figuring that out, took me so fucking long, because I have absolutely, and we've spoken about this, Ellen, come from a family who is so hardworking, so ambitious, never takes a day off. Like, my mom literally works 7 days a week. She's an accountant, so it's not like, she's not like out in the fields, but she's like literally every day on her computer, always working. And so I really had to untangle myself from this belief that the more work we do, the more worthy we are, or the faster our success is going to be. Because even the other day I was talking to one of my other one-on-one clients. She's like, I feel like I've got like too much free time. Like, should I be working more? And I was like, you can work more if it feels aligned. But if we have this idea in our head that like, if I work more, that's going to equal success, it's not a true thing. And we think we can control something that we actually can't control. Of course we need to work. Of course we need to show up consistently. And of course, some of it's going to feel hard and uncomfortable. Like, posting on social media can be so edgy sometimes. And getting successful, or to your next income goal, or to your next client, whatever, does not purely come just because you're putting more hours into, working.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that is one of the biggest things that I've really learned in the last few weeks, that you don't need to follow all of these accounts that do exactly what you do. Because I kind of found that I was taking like what they were posting, and I was trying to put it into my own content, and like it wasn't aligning with my own values. It wasn't aligning with how I coached. And I literally was not getting any clients. I wasn't getting any interest. And I was like, what the hell's going on? Like they seem to be so successful. And then when you just told me like, just mute them. Like you don't have to, like, don't even look at their stories. Like they're changing your content because you're trying to be like them. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, fuck, you're right. And then ever since then, I've just been like, I'm just going to put up whatever it is that I feel. And obviously my program is super successful. So I'm just going to put that out there. And ever since I started doing that and resting, it's just blown up. And it's just, yeah. And it's just
so good.
It's so weird though, but it is like a constant battle that you have in your head that like, oh, well, shouldn't I be working a little bit more? Like, should I really just be sitting here and just watching people for 3 hours? And then it's like, you just have to keep reminding yourself of, okay, well, last time I did this, all of this like great stuff happened to me. So you just need to retrain your brain. It's like any kind of habit, I guess. Like it's just like biting your nails or like binge eating or anything like that. And we've just been so taught that the harder you work, the more success you're going to have. And yeah, like some cases it might be like that, but with coaching, because it is so personal and it is so dependent on you having that high energy, you really do need to rest as well. So very important reminder, guys, like, especially if you're a new coach, like I know when I first started, like I was fucking working nonstop to grow my business, respond to every single message, like message every single person that ever followed me. Like, oh my God, it was just like, it never ends if you can't do it like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with running your own business. It's very easy to just keep doing more. Like there absolutely
always going to be something more to do.
Literally, like there's always more that you can do. And even I go through like phases where I notice myself maybe getting a bit too attached to certain people's content and feeling like, oh, should I change? Should I say something differently? Should I do things their way? And I catch myself because it's a natural thing to compare yourself to other people. Like that's a part of the human condition that you're never going to like fully erase. So like normalizing that too, and having the self-awareness to go, oh, okay, I'm looking at this person to give me permission to do what I really want to do, but actually I'm going to be more successful. And it actually feels like the way that you described it, it feels like you're doing like a trust fall and you're hoping that the universe catches you, right? When you're like, okay, I'm not going to do it in their way, even though they look like they're doing it really successfully. And I'm going to trust that I can say it in my own way, like run my programs in this way, you know, whatever, post the content that I really want to talk about. But the thing is that if you feel like you're doing things differently to everyone else, then that's good. Like you want to stand out. You have to be okay with standing out in your online business, because otherwise, like I said, you're just going to end up being a watered down version of yourself that isn't really going to speak to anyone. And people are going to be like, oh, that's nice to follow, but they're not being like, oh my God, I need this person's program, or like, oh my God, sign me up. Like, you know, I went through that as well, where I felt like I was getting a lot of good engagement from people, but not necessarily getting people that were like throwing me their credit cards. Whereas now, like people are like, sign me up. I want to do more coaching with you. Like, how can I extend this? And always finding ways to make it work. And like, I'm by no means, again, like, you know, it took me 5 years to get to this point. And I think if you look at Instagram, it's very easy to think, oh, all these coaches are becoming millionaires within like 2 years, and like, what's wrong with me? But it's actually such a minute percentage. Not to say that it's not possible. Like I have full on dreams that I'm going to be a millionaire, like running $1 million coaching business for sure. I think we all are, and we all have the capacity to do so. But some people's journey is just going to take a little bit longer. Like it took me to get to my 3rd year of business before I hit a 10K month, you know, and now I'm making like 20, 30K months. And like, that's fucking amazing. But it's taken me 5 years, you know, I didn't just like wake up and be like, oh, okay, now it's happened. And I always share that and be like really transparent about my earnings, because firstly, I think it's really important that we have more discussions around money, especially for women, because we're often like, oh, I feel weird talking about money, or like, you know, blah, blah, blah. But secondly, because I know that when I was running my business, like in the early days, I felt like if I wasn't making 6 figures in the first year, then there was something wrong with me. But actually to even be hitting like 60K or like, I don't know, 30K in your first year, whatever amount, that's still like, you are literally making that money. That's literally incredible.
Yeah. The fact that you're not giving up, it's like unreal. Like most businesses like close after a year. So if you're still here, fucking keep doing it. Keep doing it. It's amazing.
Yeah, literally. So I think like it's allowing it to take time. And when you allow it to take time, like it's the irony, it always ends up happening quicker.
Oh, 100%. So it's obviously you are, like you said, you're making a lot of money now, you have a lot of clients, your business is growing, but what has been the biggest obstacle for you to get to where you are now?
Oh, good question. I think for me, the constant theme I'm coming back to a lot is like, how can I remain as authentic and true to myself? And the reason why I didn't start my online business earlier, like I feel like every business owner feels like this, but like I definitely regret not starting sooner. And the reason why I didn't start sooner was because I felt like, what did I have to offer? You know, like like, does the universe really need another coach online? I felt like every man and their dog was setting up an online business. And this was 5 years ago. And the coaching industry has grown a lot since then. And at that time, like randomly, you know, I maybe should have seen this as a bit of a sign, but at that time I was actually working at a gym where there were a lot of influencers that I worked with that were fitness influencers. So I took that as, oh, they're already so successful, there's no space for me. But I wish if I could go back and tell my younger self some advice, I'd be like, no, like this is a perfect place for you to be building your business, because you're literally surrounded by all of these people that are already so successful. But I've really struggled to, I guess, not judge myself. Like I really struggled to just like own that I wanted to start an online business and whatever. So I think for me, like overcoming that and letting myself be seen online was such a huge obstacle initially. Like I used to be so shy. I was not the kind of person, like I was never the center of the stage, you know, like didn't really enjoy being in group situations, like was pretty shy. But my fear of being seen wasn't as big as my desire to have a business, you know, like my desire to run my own business, to have a flexible schedule, to help people, to get to work with clients was like maybe 1 millimeter bigger than my fear of like showing up online. And so, you know, I think that's always something that I constantly come back to. Even as I said, like sometimes I'll catch myself being like, maybe I should post something like this, or, you know, should I don't know, whatever it might be, like something, so I might see something and think, oh, maybe I should post something like that. And you just have to catch yourself and go back to your gut reaction. What I mean by that is like your brain is a survival mechanism. So it's not designed to help you to thrive. It doesn't want you to go outside of your comfort zone. It doesn't want you to do anything that's like a threat or unpredictable. So at every single level of the journey, your brain is always wanting you to just stay the same. So to constantly have that, to remind yourself of like, okay, but I'm going to go against that and I'm going to be more vulnerable. I'm going to do things in my own way. I'm going to share this piece of content. It's just really good for me to have that as like I don't know, something to fall back on in like, am I doing this from a place of like surviving, like, you know, staying in my comfort zone, or am I doing the thing that is like thriving me, that's expanding me, that's like outside of my comfort zone? So I guess that would be like, you know, that's a bit of like a general one. But for me, like you just constantly have to remind yourself, like I remember telling a client recently, I had a big goal of hitting 20K months for what felt like forever. Like it wasn't really, I guess it wasn't that long, but when I hit my first 10K month, I was like, cool, let's double it. And it took me like maybe a couple of years or so. And I felt always like maybe I wasn't, you know, as good enough, basically. Like I was like, oh, like I'm not making enough money. Maybe my friends think I'm not successful. You know, maybe I'm not taking coaching seriously enough. Like I had these weird kind of like, you know, like self-limiting beliefs, I guess we could call them. And do you know what happened to me? As soon as I hit 20K months, I was like, oh God, maybe my friends think I make money too easily. And I was just like, my brain is literally ridiculous. Like, honestly, you just can't listen to it, which is why it's so important as a business owner to not listen to those like thoughts that you have of like, maybe this, or what if this, or are my friends judging me, or should I be doing this? Like, just let those thoughts come in and out. And then tap back into your body and go with like the feeling of what feels the most expansive and exciting. And every time I do that, that's when I have the successful launches. That's when I create the best content. That's when I give my clients the best guidance.
Yeah. Oh my God. I think so many people can relate to this, because I constantly find myself like explaining, like people always ask, how many hours do you do per day? And I'm like, oh, I probably do like this many hours, but I also work like this much as well and this much. And I'm like, stop it. Like, if you only work 1 hour this day, like you should be fucking proud of that. Like, you're still making an income and you worked for an hour. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So now I've kind of just been like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, last Friday I worked for 45 minutes and then I just took the rest of the day off, and it was my most successful Friday ever. Like,
yeah. Oh my God, I love that.
I think that so many coaches get stuck in this mindset that you have to work, 9 to 5, because that's the typical, like you need to do 40-hour weeks. But like, you create an online business, you create like your coaching because you don't want to work 9 to 5, like you want to break free from the norm. So why are you not enjoying all this extra free time that you're getting now because you do have a coaching business?
Exactly. This is the problem. So many people, myself included, go from being at school to being at uni to being in a job where like you have to be there are certain times, right? So everything's so structured, so rigid, no room for like flexibility. And then you start working in your online business and you're like, yay, I've got all this freedom, but like you don't know how to use it. So you just fall back into the same pattern of working 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
And something that really helped me like earlier on in my business, like I've been doing this for 5 years now, like, so you start to get more used to like having your own flexibility. But I will say it's been a very conscious choice. Like I know people that have been in business like 3 or 4 years and they still feel guilty for like sleeping in. I'm like, nothing, your business is not going to burn down just because you slept in on a Tuesday morning or like, you took the Thursday afternoon off or whatever. But something that really helped me is like, on average, people who go into an office, they work for 8 hours a day. There was like some sort of like census study or I don't know, whatever, some study that I can't cite right now, where they said that that most office job people who work in an office that do like a 9 to 5 only actually get 3 hours of quality work done, right?
Oh, really?
So yeah, literally. And I was like, why am I stressing about this? Because also the type of work we are doing as coaches, like an hour of coaching, that is equivalent to like 3 hours of sitting at a desk. It is so high energy and I love it. Like I absolutely am obsessed with doing coaching, but like, fuck me, I'm exhausted afterwards. Like I can't do more than like really 2 sessions a day because it's such a huge energy output. And there's nothing wrong with me because, I get tired after a session. It's just, I've used the energy, like that's normal. But like, I wouldn't be able to do 8 hours of coaching. I'd be so exhausted. It would literally, I reckon I would like literally just like turn off halfway through a session,
Yeah.
No. So it's just like reminding ourselves as well that like the type of work we do it's not comparable.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And there was like this one day where I'd scheduled like 4 back-to-back calls and I came out and I was like, I literally had the worst headache of my life. Like I couldn't think. I had to cancel all my plans that afternoon because I was so exhausted.
Yeah.
But it's like you say, like we forget that coaching is it's so different to like sitting there, like working and with numbers, like that's hard as well, but it's a completely different way of, different energy level. But you also mentioned that you were struggling a bit with like showing up, like when you first started and like worry about what people are going to think and stuff. And I think this is so common amongst new coaches. Like I have a friend at the moment who's doing a PT course and I said to her, it's like, you need to start posting on social media, like show people that you actually know what you're doing. Like, yeah, you're not qualified yet, but it's so good to show up still and show that you do know what you're doing in the gym, because you're not just going to finish and then you're going to get clients. Like that's not that easy. So, but I think this is so common. I was struggling with it as well when I first started. Like, and I even had people say to me like, oh, you're so annoying. Like, can you stop posting so much on social media? Like, I'm going to unfollow you on Instagram if you keep posting about nutrition and mindset and whatever. But
God forbid.
At the time I was like, oh my God, I think I need to create a new business account and need to do all this extra stuff. And I only do my personal stuff on my personal Instagram. Now I could not give a shit if my friends unfollow me, because it's just not for them, and that's cool. Like I wouldn't follow someone who only posts about computers. Like I don't give a shit about computers. But what would your best advice be for someone who is studying, maybe with the Women's Fitness Academy, and they want to become a coach? Like what would you say to them about posting and
Yeah, I think this is so real. Like what you said about people, I speak to people all the time that are like, oh, I'm going to do my like PT course or like this qualification, so I'm going to wait until then to like, start my Instagram account. And I'm like, it's too late by that point. You know, like people have this very romanticized idea that like they'll finish their qualification and they'll have all the education, they'll just post it up on their stories. And why wouldn't people buy? Which I totally get. Like, of course you feel like that, because I guess when you have a qualification, you think, oh, that's all I need to have a business, you know,
Literally.
which like isn't the case at all. And, you know, personally, even for me, like I would rather work with someone that's got the experience over how many qualifications they have. And most people are actually like that, whether they think it or not, you know, like as if you want to work with, I don't know, like a therapist, for example, that has a million qualifications, but like can't relate to you as a human being. Like it doesn't make a difference, you know? So I think in terms of overcoming that fear of showing up online, especially if you're wanting to run an online business, we need to understand that you cannot run a business without having an audience. If you don't have an audience, no one's going to buy your stuff. No matter how qualified you are, how passionate you are, how good your programs are, how good your results are, no one will buy your services if you don't have an audience and you can't establish some sort of relationship with your audience, right? So it's never too early to build that relationship up. As I said, I started posting for 3 months about fitness, nutrition, you know, mindset kind of stuff for 3 months before I ever started selling anything. And I think that you don't necessarily, it's not like 3 months is like the magic number. It was just what I did at that time whilst I kind of like figured out what I wanted to do. And I think that's a really good place to be, because you're showing your audience what you have to offer, your personality, you're showing them your knowledge, you're showing them your expertise, your education, all this kind of stuff. And so that once you have your qualification and you're like, hey, I've got spots open for coaching, they understand why you as the coach are worthy of their investment. Why else would they? In terms of actually overcoming that fear, my biggest tip would be start really small. Like start by just sharing some posts, some photos, some carousels, whatever. Like there's so many different ways that you can share content, but you don't have to use Instagram as like a diary and start like spilling all of your secrets about your deepest, darkest demons. And like, you know, you actually don't want it. Like it should be about you to an extent, but like most of your content, you want to think about how this applies to your client, how it's going to be helpful to the person reading it. And I see this as a bit of a mistake that a lot of people do with their content, where they make it almost like a diary. And it can be helpful to an extent. Like I learned so much from people's lived experience, and like I'll often share my experience with my clients about, you know, if we are going through a similar situation. But in my content, for example, I'll be like, this is something I went through, or this is something that I've overcome, and here's how you can do it too. So I really am always relating it back to that person, making it about them. But as I said, you want to start small. So like if you are, for example, a life coach, what kind of main areas, like maybe pick 3 main areas that you would love to work with someone. So for me, when I was a life coach, it was mainly around dealing with anxiety, you know, what else was it, like better relationships, and, you know, I don't know, probably just like self-care or something like that. Those aren't very specific ones, but we'll just roll with that example. Now you've got kind of like 3 different pillars of things that you can talk about. And there are, you know, if you're thinking about dealing with anxiety, you can be like, okay, cool. What's the thing that helped me with anxiety? I'm going to start talking about that. And just start sharing that and start seeding it in, and, you know, you can whatever. And then as you start to do it, you'll start to feel more comfortable with being a little bit more open, or sharing a little bit more of an opinionated piece, sharing a bit more of your personality. Like you don't have to show up on social media tomorrow fully confident and fully like yourself and authentic and, you know, all of that on social media tomorrow. Just give it time. And like also some people are like, oh, can I just start posting on my personal account? It's like, yeah, just start posting. Like, you know, you can introduce yourself and be like, oh, I'm, you know, doing this qualification, or I've just finished this thing and so now I'm going to start posting this kind of information. But like, let people unfollow you. Your biggest, like, I guess, what's the word that I'm looking for? Like, the way to make yourself be able to show up more consistently is like being okay with people misunderstanding you, being okay that not everyone's going to get it. Let people think you're weird, be a bit of a walking contradiction. Like if you're trying to show up perfectly, you're going to find it really hard to consistently show up. You're going to find it really hard to build a brand. People don't connect with perfect. People want to connect with people. So let yourself be a person, you know? So that would be my biggest thing, is just like start really, really, really small. Like, what's the easiest piece of content for you to share? If you love sharing recipes, just start there. And then maybe you'll get to a place where you're like, okay, cool. Now I want to show more meal prep hacks. Okay, cool. Now I want to start talking more about nutrition. Okay, cool. Now I want to start talking more about mindset and nutrition. You know, it doesn't have to be everything all at once.
Yeah, 100%. And I so agree with that. And I remember the first time I ever did like talked on my stories, and I was so nervous. I was like stuttering. I was just like I was a sweaty mess because I was so freaking nervous. Like, public speaking has always been like, I hated it growing up. And now I'm freaking doing like workshops and stuff in front of like educating people. Like, it's amazing how far you can actually come if you just push yourself out of that comfort zone. But what I want to say with that is, when I showed up, like, I will never forget this time because I was so nervous. But after I did that, so many people messaged me and they just said, thank you so much for showing up. Thank you for saying how nervous you are. Like, thank you for being so vulnerable, because you've inspired me now to do it the same. Like, I've been so scared of showing up on my stories. I've been so scared of doing a live, but seeing that you did it, like, that just inspired me so much. And like, I got clients from it. I got people that just, that's how you build a connection, by being vulnerable and putting yourself out there. And yeah, some people are probably going to make fun of you, but that stems from their own insecurities, not from you.
Yeah. Even this morning, it's so funny. I went to a brunch for a friend's birthday. Perks of having your own business. You can go to brunch on a Tuesday morning. She took the day off. And another one of our friends came, and she has a friend visiting here from the UK that I met 5 years ago. And she turned to me and she was like, wow, you look like you're killing it on social media. And I felt really naked in that moment. I was like, oh my God, she's been looking at all my content. And I was like, oh, maybe she thinks it's weird. You know, like, you're not immune to that. It's going to happen at literally every single level of the journey.
Yeah.
But I was just kind of like, in the past, I might have like sunk into my seat a bit more and be like, oh yeah, like made a joke or been like, oh, I'm so annoying. Or, I used to put myself down so much. But I was kind of like, oh yeah, I was like, business is going really well. I'm feeling really good. Like, love my clients. And she was like, yeah, like, you look amazing. Like, it's so fun to follow you. And it was really nice because like, it kind of caught me off guard because I didn't realize that she'd like still followed me. We met like once, like 5 years ago, but it was really lovely to have someone who like is not interested in, what I offer at all, just follows me because she likes the vibe, I guess, to give me such like positive feedback, because like, you think that everyone's looking at your Instagram stories being like, oh, they either love it or they hate it. Like, but people want to be supportive, and if they're not interested, then they can just unfollow, and it's not the worst thing in the world. Like, if you just allow people to like unfollow, not like your things, not engage, whatever, you're going to find it much easier to show up on Instagram, because you're not doing it for like the validation. You're doing it for like, if this can help one person, then it's worth it for me. And also, is it like facing your fear and showing up and being vulnerable and doing the thing, feeling all of that, it's always worth it to grow your business. That's what I always ask myself. I'm like, is it worth it to feel vulnerable? Is it worth it to share this? Is it worth it to face the fear? Always. It's always worth it. It's just uncomfortable at the moment, but you're going to be proud of yourself for doing it. That's the main thing.
Yeah, 100%. And especially when you are doing it out of, your own, what's the word? Like, you're not trying to copy someone else. You're being authentic and you're just putting yourself up there. Like, this is how I'm feeling today. This is what I feel like posting. I just created this reel because I was really thinking about, I don't know, like binge eating or mindset, or I just learned this, or I listened to this podcast and I was like, yes, like I need to post about this. Like, if you're doing it from a place of like, I just really want to share this knowledge and I really want to just, this is how I'm feeling at the moment, you're never going to regret putting that content out there. Like, the only content that I've ever regretted, or I've been like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have put that out, it's when I've been like seeing someone else put something up and I'm like, oh, that's really good, like maybe I should put it, and kind of almost copy them a little bit. So just following your own true voice, like you said before, and just really trusting your gut instinct, and that you do know what you're doing. Like, if you've done a qualification, or if you've gone through this amazing like crazy life experience, like, just trust yourself and trust that people are going to vibe with you. Like, obviously not every single person, but look, we can't all like the same things. Like, that's just normal.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Like, your lived experience is so worthy of sharing and can be so helpful to people. Like, you don't need to know necessarily more than that. It's even like, my clients will sometimes say that to me of like, what if I don't know enough? Or, what if I need to learn more? And I'm like, you are literally right now in this moment, and whoever's listening to this podcast, where you are at right now in this moment is exactly where your client needs to be with you. And I know that with such confidence because, for example, my clients choose to work with me at the level that I'm at. They could go like, you know, you could go to work with a coach that was making like $100K a month or $1 million a month, but you didn't. You chose to come to me for, you know, obviously a multitude of reasons, but because I'm where I'm at. I don't need to know more in order to get more clients. And that goes across any single industry, whether you are an online PT or a life coach or nutrition coach, a love coach, whatever. Right now where you are at, you are able to help someone to get there 100%. There's no doubt in my mind. All you got to do is share it. Like, you don't have to like learn more, read more, research more, think about it more. Like, don't do any of that stuff. Get out there and do it.
Yes, that is so important. And I think so many people can relate to this, but when you're not working, you're like listening to a podcast about nutrition or about, I don't know, training or mindset or whatever it is. Or if you're not listening to that, you're reading a book about it or you're watching a YouTube video about it. And I know because I used to be there and I used to spend every single free time that I had trying to learn, trying to educate myself more. And yes, you do learn stuff, but eventually your nervous system just has enough. And you're like, I literally cannot take on any more information right now. And you're just tired all the time. You're fatigued. You're being a shit coach because you're always tired. So you can't actually show up for your clients. And then they're not getting results. And then because they're not getting results, you're not going to get any new clients. So it's just like a vicious cycle. And then I know I find myself like prior to working with you, like, okay, well, if this is happening, then obviously I need to do more.
Yeah.
Less is more. And that's like the moment people realize that, like, it's going to blow everyone's minds. Like, you don't need to be busting your ass every single day to have a successful business.
Yeah, exactly. And like, it's not to say that it's not hard because it is really hard.
Yeah.
Like, running a business is like the most natural thing to me, but also the hardest thing. But it's not hard in the way that the traditional way. It's not hard in the sense that you've got to like, you know, again, be out in the fields doing really like intense labor or like, you know, that you've even got to work like 10 hours a day. It's not hard in that sense. It's hard in the sense that you're like constantly having to listen. Okay, is this my voice or someone else's voice? Does this feel authentic to me? Is this communicating the way I want it to? You know, constantly bearing your soul on social media. Like, that's really hard. It's not a natural thing for most people to do. Most people aren't brought up in that way. And to find a way, you know, now I would say it's really easy, natural for me to just like share whatever I want to on social media. But it took me a really long time to build up that skill. And so, you know, for anyone that's listening as well, like, it's a skill to build up. And yeah, it's just interesting. Like, I always think about that, how like it's also hard to like just trust that what you're doing is working, because a lot of business is like waiting, you know, you're kind of planting the seeds and then you're waiting to see if it works. And it always does. Like, so many of my clients come to work with me and they're like, I don't know, like this month is looking really quiet. I don't know if I'm going to sign on any new clients. And then, you know, the next month, they don't do anything differently. They just show up consistently. Obviously, we're coaching, and I think there's a lot to be said about like the energetics behind how you show up, as we were speaking about too. But, you know, you just consistently show up, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, actually, yeah, it is working. And it's just like being able to hold the energy, even when you're not sure if it's going to work. Just assume that it is and keep showing up, because eventually it's got to pay off.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because it's so easy to say to someone else, like, just be consistent. Like in the gym, I'm like, just be consistent. You will get there. You will get stronger. Your pull-ups will get better. And then for myself, I'm like, oh, it didn't work today, so obviously it's never going to work. I need to change everything. But literally, you have to remind yourself, like, patience is a word that has literally showed up for me in somehow every single day in the last month. And I'm just like, it's the universe. It's the universe telling you that you need to be patient.
Yeah.
But it is, honestly, for a lot of people, especially I think if you are a business owner, you are going to be quite driven. And then if you're quite driven and you're like type A personality, you always want to do more, being patient and not doing anything is so much harder than actually working.
Literally. I always joke with my clients, like, how ironic it is that it's so hard to rest. Like, it's like, you know, most people don't need to be told that they need to do more. Most people actually need help with like being more efficient and resting more and doing less, but doing less, but focusing on the high quality things that are actually going to get you results. Because I think a lot of people are so addicted to being busy and working more that they're doing a lot of like fluff work, a lot of behind the scenes work, a lot of like research that's not getting your business any growth. And you can tell because you're not making more money. Like if you're spending all week working and your business isn't growing, then you're not focusing on the right things, you know?
Yeah, totally. Well, it's something about you getting that like dopamine feeling of feeling like you've achieved something, right? So I know I quite often get stuck in that cycle, or if I'm trying to distract myself from feeling like shitty, I just do heaps of work and I feel like I've achieved something for the day. But that is a cycle I'm trying to break. So guys, just because I am a coach doesn't mean I don't have flaws.
Oh, 100%.
It's always a work in progress, right?
Yeah. 100%.
I'm just looking at the time and I see, like, as always when we're talking, the time will just go so fast.
It's flown through.
Yes, well, almost up to an hour now, so I don't want to keep you for too long. I know you have a very busy schedule, even if the busyness might sometimes just be rested.
gotta take care of the vibe.
That's right. But I just wanted to say again, like, thank you so much for coming on. But is there anything that you would like to plug for the listeners? Like, this episode will probably be out in late November, early December. Is there anything that you would like to share, like where they can find you? How can someone work with you?
Yeah, so the best place to come and find me is obviously Instagram. That's where I hang out all the time. If you go on my stories, you'll see I'm always offering something different. I always have, like, you know, master classes that are at a lower investment. So if that's something that you want to start into, I'm always running like something once a month. Or if you're wanting to do more like obvious coaching or a program, just come and watch my stories. There's always like a million different things happening. Ellen will know. I'm always launching something new, which I love. I love being really creative in my business. So just come out and hang out with me on Instagram. If you have any questions or feedback about this episode, I'd love to hear it as well. But thank you for having me. This was so much fun. I loved getting to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, so fun. I think a lot of the listeners will take a lot of good things out of this as well, especially those who are brand new to business or you're thinking of starting your new. Like, honestly, the best advice that I can give as a coach is to sign up with someone who knows what they're doing before you think you need it, because literally. I definitely put that off for way too long. Like the first 2 years I had a business, I didn't even have a coach, and it was great that I could grow so organically, but if I would have signed up to someone earlier and had a bit more structure, I can't even imagine how much it would have blown up. So having like a coach that can be there for you like that, there's nothing like it. And it doesn't mean that you're failing. It doesn't mean that you're not a good coach or whatever. Like it means that you're a fucking good coach, that you are investing in yourself, and that you are, you know, that you feel like you are worth having that investment and having that support. Because like everyone should have a coach. Like I have like 3 coaches. Like, it's the best thing ever.
Yeah. Why? It's just like, I get it. Sometimes we feel like we need to be independent and like prove to ourselves that we can do it. And like having a coach doesn't take away from your capability. If anything, you actually get so much energy from your coach and you're actually able to do so much more.
100%.
So yeah,
and do what's
I love
important, not just like fluffing around like goddamn hours I wasted doing stupid spreadsheets and stuff that I never used.
Oh, same. I feel you.
Oh God, yeah. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please remember to take a screenshot, tag myself, tag Women's Fitness Academy, tag Inez, and let us know what you think. Like, we love connecting with you guys in this way, because yes, we can see that you've listened, but it's just a statistic. Like, we can't actually reach out to you and say thank you. So when you do take this screenshot and put it on your stories, it just makes it so much more personal, and we can have an actual conversation. So please remember to do that. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for listening, and thanks, Inez, for coming on.